Okay, 5 minutes on who owns the future. Actually, what I wanted to call it was who owns what the future looks like, because I want to do a bit of commentary on one comment that Elon Musk made on the most recent Joe Rogan podcast. But just to kind of highlight, who owns the future is actually the title of a book that I read, I think, about 10 years ago. It was a really amazing book by this guy, Jaron Lanier. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Incredible guy that was kind of a pioneer of virtual reality technology. And the book was really fascinating for me because he got into a bunch of things that were kind of like new for me to learn about and new perspectives for me to consider when contemplating big data and, how information, gets to me through the internet and all this thing. But I mean, I'm not going to do a very good job of summarizing that book, but basically, the GPT summary is, who owns the future is an examination of the digital economy, especially data and networked technology, and how it's shaped wealth, power, human value. And he talks about how the current information economy is built on Siren servers, that's what he calls them, which are powerful centralized systems run by the tech giants that we all know, like Google, Facebook, Amazon. And they collect and analyze these massive amounts of data from users for free while concentrating profits and control at the top. And so he goes on this whole thing about it, and it's very interesting. And one thing I remember specifically from that book that I never really forgot was he had a part where he talks about like Google Translator as an example. He says like everybody thinks that Google Translator is like this magical thing that just like translates words. And he's like, no. Actually, it's not. It's people. People do all the translations. Every translation that you have received from Google Translate was done by an actual person. It's not like a magical machine that does it. Every translation had to be done by a person. And excuse me. And I remember thinking about that and like, oh, right. It's not a magical process. It's people that are doing it. And all the information and all the data, it's from people. It's not generated from some black hole void in the universe, which I think is in some ways how we're being tricked into thinking about it. Things like the cloud, everything's in the cloud. It's not in a cloud. Nothing's in a cloud. We're all starting to see these posts that show that like it's on a computer. All of our data are on massive computers. There's no clouds. It's just kind of this way to get us thinking about it like it's out there floating around or something. It's not. It's very much on the ground. It's very much anyways, not the point of my commentary. Got 1 minute, 35 seconds. Damn. Anyways, the comment that I actually wanted to make was I was listening to Elon Musk on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he made this one snippet comment, and he said, "We want the future to look like the future." And in the moment when he said it, it made sense to me because I'm like, yeah, right. Like, I get what he's sort of saying in that. It's like a lot of people like Elon Musk, and maybe me on some level, have this like fantasy of the future that has not been realized, like spaceships, flying cars, everything's all white and clean, and like technology. And, like think of any sci-fi movie that gives you this technologically advanced, impressive future. And that's not how it is. I mean, think about 2001 Space Odyssey and what they thought the future was. And we're like nothing even close to that. And it's like 25 years later. So when he says, we want the future to look like the future, I get what he means. But at the same time, it made me think like, yeah, but that statement also implies that some people want the future to look a certain way that they want it. And I couldn't help but think, well, who gets to decide what the future looks like? Like, who's sitting at that table designing what our future world looks like? Like, I'm not at the table. There's my 5 minutes. Okay, just like one more minute. Because I also thought about like, imagine if, like, who's going to design my apartment? Like, what my apartment looks like? Like, I am. And actually, the way that I decide how it looks might look completely different than even some of my very best friends. Like, maybe not way off because we're friends and a lot of my friends have a similar aesthetic, but like, if I compare what my apartment design aesthetic looks like compared to like, you know, somebody who's not really a friend of mine, like a guy I know, and I go over to his house and you're like, oh, like that's not what I would do. You know what I mean? Like that person likes this look, you know, it's like Victorian, classic Victorian bourgeois, you know, I don't know, kind of thing. And I'm like, oh, okay. Or, you know, like woodworker aesthetic or log cabin aesthetic or, you know, any number of aesthetics that people could have for their own personal living environment. I mean, the spectrum is enormous, and everybody finds their place on that spectrum on an aesthetic that they prefer. And obviously, in my own home, I've got like my personal aesthetic that I try to match as closely as is affordable for me. But I mean, there are people out there that are also thinking about what the aesthetic is going to be for everyone on the planet. And I think that is kind of, I don't want to say absurd. I mean, we do have to kind of do that, right? I mean, on some level, you know, we have to design a global world. Like, what is the world going to look like that we live in? And right now, I live in a world that I had absolutely no say, or it doesn't feel like I had any say in how it looks. You know, we've got buildings, we've got roads. I mean, I wasn't included on those decisions at all. And, you know, it doesn't really matter what people like me think about, you know, are roads the best option or how the roads look even. But anyways, that's my commentary. And I think that's about it. So what do you think? Just one view. That's all I need. If I get at least one view, it was a success. That's actually what I should have called my podcast, Just One View, because I'm changing my whole idea of what a successful video post looks like. And to me, now it's going to be one view. If I get one view, that's a success. You're watching it, it's a success. Happy Thursday.